What is going on, guys? Ninja Nick back with the finals of the Masters division of the Pokemon Trading Card Game 2023 World Championships. We've got Vance Kelly here on the left with the Mew Fusion Strike deck, Mew VMAX, Genesect Vs, some Meloettas, some Fusion Strike Energies. We've got Tord Reklev on the right with Gardevoir EX. Tord being a fan of both discard draw 2 abilities and Gardevoir as a Pokemon. Makes perfect sense that he would be playing a deck like this. I think he's just played this deck exclusively since it's been released. Makes perfect sense here. And Vance winning the coin flip, being able to go first, is a huge factor to whether or not he will be able to win this game, because Mew usually can only attack turn 2 and on. You can attack turn 1 with Meloetta, but it is just such a hard thing to piece together, especially with these decks only playing 2 Elisa Sparkle these days. Using it more as a way around Spiritomb than as a way to actually attack. So we do see all the Pokemon being brought up to the front from Vance here. We see that he has quite a few Pokemon in there. He does have the Meloetta, he does have the Oricorio. So, we'll likely see either a Mew V or just another Genesect here. Probably a Mew V, I would suspect, as the first Pokemon to get onto the bench. Unless he has maybe a Feather Ball in hand, then he could go for the Genesect now. Tord getting the Cresselia start is actually pretty good. Usually your ideal starter is the Mew with the Mysterious Tail, where you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck, choose an item, put it in your hand. But Cresselia is still really good. If you can get enough Psychic Pokemon into play, you can always just snipe the Oricorio or the Meloetta off of the bench. Looks like we are going to go for the Genesect, so we also have a Forest Sealstone in hand. We could attach that to a Genesect, be able to use the Star Alchemy V-Star power of that tool card to be able to look for a Battle VIP pass to load up our entire bench. But Vance, it looks like he's going to be opting for a different route. He is going to put that down, but maybe he's going to try to use a Genesect ability first. He does have a Mew in hand, and a Switch Cart will put that Mew active and attaches a Fusion Strike Energy as well. So we do have 2 cards remaining in hand. We can draw 1 card for the Genesect. Attach that Forest Sealstone here. And I think now... oh no, he's just going to draw 1 yet again. Yeah, I think that I would have done that play to not have to waste the Forest Sealstone first, but when I didn't draw like a Battle VIP pass off of that Genesect for 1 on the first one, and especially off of that second one, definitely would have considered using the Forest for the Battle VIP pass before using that last Genesect. But of course you could do it after, and he's choosing not to do that at all. Now Tord does play 1 Lost Vacuum. That's probably a known factor at this point in the tournament. But having 2 of those Forest Sealstones, that's going to make it so Tord cannot get rid of those. So you could always just get those Pokemon into play later, but those Battle VIP passes are only good turn 1, and you could have drawn a lot more cards that turn by utilizing a Battle VIP pass. So a bit of an interesting decision there from Vance. Of course, Tord being represented there by some of his favorite Pokemon. I do know he loves Celebi, as well as Zoroark has brought him luck in the past with its trade ability, much like the Refinement Kirlia, being able to discard 1 card from your hand to draw 2 cards. We are going to Battle VIP pass, of course, in our opening turn, something that the Mew deck generally does, but it looks like Tord is going to be doing that instead, is going to be able to find the 60 HP Ralts with the Memory Skip. Probably not going to be relevant for its attack, but that's usually the first one you want to get down. Evolve that one sooner rather than later, because it does have the least amount of HP of all your Raltses. And then the Radiant Greninja, because that will allow you to discard an energy card and draw 2 cards every single turn. So it's almost like having a Kirlia early. Of course, Tord taking as much time off the clock as possible by just overly sufficiently shuffling. Tord is the master manipulator of the clock, and As we saw in a previous round, his opponents get slow play warnings and not him. So he's going to do whatever he can to abuse the time state to his advantage, especially in a 75-minute best of 3. He's really going to have to figure out a way to whittle that clock down. Tord's general game plan is win game 1, don't finish game 2. So we do see a second Battle VIP pass coming out. He does have that Mew in front there. He might be choosing to get that. Definitely want to get at least 1 Ralts, because you don't want to have any less than 2 Ralts in play on your first turn of the game. Maybe retreat into that Mew and use its Mysterious Tail to find yet another Battle VIP pass, or maybe just a Level Ball or a Fog Crystal to find that last Ralts to put into play, leaving that thing active. Hopefully it doesn't get knocked out, and maybe find a rare candy off of it on the next turn. Even if you were to just find the rare candy this turn, you could still always use that next turn. So having only 2 Ralts in play isn't ideal, and it's not the worst either. But getting that Mew in play will be very relevant. So we do see Ultra Ball and Fog Crystal here, both ways to get that Ralts into play. No rare candy though. He does have, it looks like, both of his Gardevoir EXs in hand, so definitely seems like he was looking for the rare candy, but we are going to go for the Ultra Ball, it looks like, off of that. We might be able to thin some of those cards, Gardevoir cards, out of the hand into the discard pile to Super Rod them back into the deck. Would not be the worst scenario. Oh, he also has a Fog Crystal already. I did not realize he had that, so we could always use the Fog Crystal to just find that Ralts now. We also have a Kirlia here as well, so we will be able to start our chain of Kirlias next turn. Tord does have the Miracle Step, right? Mirage Step Kirlia. He does have the Mirage Step Kirlia in the deck, which does allow him to search his deck for 3 Kirlia and put them onto his bench as its attack for the turn. So something that we could have potentially have seen on this next turn if he chose not to fill his whole bench, but looks like he's going for the a little bit more consistent route, which is just get your Kirlias going, just evolve into them, use their abilities. It lets you use those refinements 1 turn earlier, but still having the Mirage Step as an option is still really good. And we do see Vance has a pretty good small hand here. He does have the second Fusion Strike energy, as well as a Mew VMAX and an Iono, so he can disrupt Tord's hand. He does have all of the options he could possibly want in his hand already, of course being Kirlia Ultra Ball with a Gardevoir EX. So putting all those Gardevoir EXs to the bottom of the deck for Tord will make it a little bit harder for him to be able to piece together that on this next turn. But it will give him a hand of, I think, 1 more card. And it looks like he does draw 2 Battle VIP passes off the top here. Not ideal for Tord whatsoever, but I think there still is another Kirlia in hand. It's hard to tell the way he's holding it. But Vance still has the option of using his Forest Seal Stone as his V-Star power, is going to grab something off of this deck. And it looks like it will be an Ultra Ball. Thin some more cards out of the hand. Looks like he did draw into double Battle VIP pass that he could have used on the last turn. So yeah, I do think that his Forest Seal Stone this game, while usually it's a good thing to keep it in play as long as possible, I think just using it for the Battle VIP pass last turn would have been a lot better than using it for an Ultra Ball this turn. You would have had 1 additional Pokemon in play. There would have been 1 less Battle VIP pass in deck to potentially draw into off of the Iono. And you could have maybe used those Genesect abilities already to draw into that Ultra Ball. So looks like 3rd Forest Seal Stone coming down. I want to say he plays 4 of those. He definitely plays at least 3. Perfect sense for a Mew VMAX deck. You can always get rid of those with the Lost Vacuum to thin your hand even more, as a way to draw even more with those Genesects. But he's going to be really looking for a second Mew V this turn. Looks like we are going to retreat the Mew VMAX. It does have free retreat, just to use a switch cart to switch your active basic Pokemon out of the active, so that will move that Genesect, drawing 2 more cards off of that, and not really getting too much else off of that. We could put the Lost City down and the Choice Belt onto the active, and draw a couple more cards with the next Genesect, but what you really want to be Lost Zoning is the Ralts and Kirlias and Gardevoirs. You do not want to be Lost Zoning the Mew. That's usually only useful the first 1 to 2 turns of the game for the Gardevoir deck, and after that they don't really care what happens to it. The Cramomatic will fail, getting rid of yet another Battle VIP Pass. Again, could have thinned the deck of 1 Battle VIP Pass. Maybe one of those cards would have been a little bit more live for Vance that he could have drawn into. We do get another Mew, and we are just going to hit with, I think, the Psychic Leap we're copying. Using Cross Fusion Strike for Psychic Leap will do exactly 70 damage, which is 10 more than needed to knock out that Mew, and it does go to the Lost Zone. So a little bit of a waste of that Choice Belt, it feels like, having it on the Mew here. Definitely a waste of the Lost City, because Tord could, of course, replace that now. Or Lost Vacuum it away. He does have the Lost Vacuum. So we do evolve into the Refinement Kirlia. We are going to use it to discard a Battle VIP Pass to draw 2 cards. Looks like we do find another Kirlia, and that is how you keep this Kirlia chain rolling. So evolve into the next Kirlia, use that Kirlia's ability, discard another Battle VIP Pass, draw another 2 cards, use Greninja's concealed cards, discard that Psychic Energy, draw 2 more cards, and then hopefully by that point you've found Rare Candy. And no, looks like we have the Mirage Step Kirlia. Is that the one we drew? I thought we had the... Oh, we drew the Mirage Step Kirlia. Oh no, we drew both. We already evolved our benched one to the Refinement. Of course, because Pokemon did take the play away from the game for a moment, so I did miss that happening. So he could Mirage Step for 1 card now. Alright, so is Tord just going to use the Mirage Step for 1 Kirlia? That doesn't feel right. Choosing not to use the last Refinement because he is going for the Mirage Step. Definitely knows that that last Kirlia is in the deck, otherwise it would not have made sense to go for that. Now that Mirage Step Kirlia, fun fact, does have a 1 retreat cost, so he could have always just retreated into the Cresselia. But we are more than likely going to be seeing the Mew VMAX just take another knockout on a Kirlia this turn. It will go to the Lost Zone, so maybe just getting 1 more Kirlia into play here is the best course of action here for Tord, just because he does know that Ralts and Kirlia in the active are likely going to the Lost Zone, so just make that be the Mirage Step Kirlia instead of the Refinement one. Because that's not one that you would want to recycle later in the game if you want to set up yet another Gardevoir line. But you will be losing the Ralts, so Vance now has to make the decision. Does he want to try to boss up one of the Refinement Kirlias, or does he want to get rid of one of Tord's Ralts? And that is certainly an interesting decision. I think maybe getting rid of the Refinement Kirlia is more correct, because that's 1 less card that you can use to draw cards later in the match, or at any point in the match. Here comes a Cram-O-Matic, getting rid of yet another Cram-O-Matic. And we are going to flip Tails. I always hate using Cram to discard Cram, because then when you fail, it feels really bad. I feel like if you discard Cram-O-Matic with Cram-O-Matic, it should be an automatic heads. Like, that's one less time you can use Cram-O-Matic during the whole game. It feels super punishing when that's a Tails. Although, again, sometimes you're just using it to thin the deck, so. Or thin your hand. Yeah, so, yeah, I think Vance definitely needs to play that boss's orders this turn. Bring up one of those Curlias on the bench with the refinement ability that has a Ralts beneath it. Will definitely help him to that win condition a little bit better, because then that's two Pokemon that Tord cannot Super Rod back into the deck, put back into play later. And it looks like they are showing off Box of Disaster. Vance, I do believe, is playing one of those. However, there is a Choice Belt on that second Mew. The Box of Disasters can come in clutch in this matchup, because if a Zacian wants to one-shot a Mew VMAX, it needs quite a lot of energies to do so, and the Box of Disasters will place 8 damage counters on a Pokemon if your active Pokemon is knocked out at full HP. So, which would be the case. Then it'll place 80 damage counter, 8 damage counters, otherwise known as 80 damage. Not 80 damage. 80 damage counters would be crazy. That's 800 damage. No, it would knock out that Zacian. So they would take 3 prizes, but you would also get to take 2. So it's a pretty great trade if you are able to pull that off in that such a way. But it looks like Vance chose not to use the boss's orders, just got rid of the active Curlia that had the energy on it, the Mirage Step, so that went into the Lost Zone. And yeah, he did have a boss's orders in hand, so I think that it would have been a lot better to get rid of a Refinement Curlia. Yes, you are using a boss to do it. Yes, you are getting rid of the same 2 Pokemon essentially, but that's 2 less cards Tord can draw every single turn potentially. So of course, Tord being able to use Refinement, then evolving into the Shining Arcana Gardevoir to draw yet another 2. So that's 4 he's drawn off of 1 Gardevoir line already. We are going to level ball for the Meloetta, or, wow, the Manaphy. Mixing up all my M words today. At one point, I'm going to call them Mew. Just thinning that out of the deck so that you can discard that with the Refinement Curlia. Of course, by getting that out of the deck now, that makes it so you can't draw into it. So might as well thin your deck of that 1 useless card and then discard it with the Curlia. Of course, we do need a little bit more energies in the discard, but here comes that concealed card, so we will be able to start doing that anyway. We do have a Ralts in the Lost Zone, so we're not going to be able to see that Super Rotted back into the deck, put onto the bench, and then Rare Candied into a Gardevoir on the next turn. We finally find that Rare Candy this turn. So here is the Manaphy going to that discard pile, as I said, with the Refinement, and Tord is just going to stack his hand up as much as possible. Mew does have a decent chance against Guardy because of all of the judges that it generally plays. Although these Fusion Strike energy builds only play 1 judge, and I think the strength of Mew is in playing the full double turbo energy build to be able to go up to 3 judges instead of having to make those 2 spots for the Elisas and the 4 spots for the Fusion Strike energies. So I think if you're going to Pittsburgh and you want to play Mew, I think you full send double turbo build, because it'll make you a lot more consistent against Lost Box and Gardevoir, and just hope that you don't go against Spiritomb. And if you do, just, I don't know, maybe play extra bosses to bring it up, I guess. I think the one deck that plays Spiritomb the most often is Arceus, and I think Arceus is in the worst position for Pittsburgh Regionals. Pittsburgh, of course, coming up in just a couple of weeks. I've been testing for it, and I'm not quite sure how I'll do. It depends on what I hit. I think I'm going to play Lost Box, but I'm not 100% sold just yet. I definitely am not playing Gardevoir. I'll tell you that much. Or Arceus. I could be convinced to go back to Rapid Strike again. But I feel like a skilled enough player can beat it with Lost Box, because I certainly can beat it. Like, I'm like 100-0 against Rapid Strike with Lost Box right now. So we do see the Shining Arcana Gardevoir coming down, can draw yet another couple of cards here for Tord. And we are already 20 minutes into game 1? This is absolutely crazy. Nothing has happened. Quite literally, nothing has happened. I wouldn't say Vance is playing slow, but Tord definitely taking his time building his board. Hello, kitty. You want pets? You want to come up and say hi to the camera? No? Okay. So still has not used his Shining Arcana just yet. He's evolved into the Gardevoir EX, so he can start accelerating energies now. He is 2 prize cards behind, so he is going to have to find some sort of a way to take that lead, and that could be this Zacian V. As I said before, the Zacian V does have the potential to one-shot the Mew VMAX if you have enough Psychic Energies in your discard pile, but if it walks into a Box of Disaster, that's kind of a bad trade-off there. So we are going to see the Research discarding and drawing 7, and then a Shining Arcana after that to draw another 2 cards, neither of which are energies, so none of them get attached for free. But we do see a Boss's Orders. Could be good in a future turn. 3 Iono. If Vance ever plays Path to the Peak down to try to stop Tord from being able to use Shining Arcana, Tord could always just play the Iono and then force Vance to replace his own stadium so that Tord can come back online with the Psychic Embrace. And again, Tord still hasn't done anything. Yeah, within the last couple of minutes, all he's done is drawn 2 cards. So we are going to use the ability of the Gardevoir to put a Psychic Energy from the discard to the Cresselia. We'll do 2 damage counters to it, but that allows us to retreat it. It needs 1 energy to retreat, and we are going to load this Gardevoir up with as many Psychic Energies are in our discard pile, making this the threat that needs to be taken out this turn. Otherwise, Vance's Gardevoir, Mew VMAX is going to go down next turn. So that is 120 to the Gardevoir. And another attachment for turn, we are doing base 60 plus 30 for every Psychic Energy attached. So that is 7 energies, so that is 270 total damage, 40 short of being able to take the knockout on that Mew VMAX. I think Tord was really digging for the Shining Arcana to hit a couple of energies out of the deck to be able to take this one shot on the Mew VMAX, but even doing this as a 2-shot is not the worst case scenario, because if, say, Vance tries to knock out the Gardevoir EX or the Zacian instead to try to maintain his prize lead, we could actually just see that Gardevoir play cleanup duty on that Mew and take those 3 prize cards, and then see the Zacian come in on the next turn. So I think what Vance really wants to do here is he's gonna want to Psychic Leap this Mew VMAX into the deck, knocking out that Gardevoir, while also putting maybe Path to the Peak in play would be really great here. Lost Vacuum can also get rid of his own Choice Belt on his benched Mew. So that it can get a Box of Disasters put on it. So if Tord does go for a Boss's Orders play, trying to take those greedy 3 prizes, he'll have an out to that. So yep, that will get rid of an Elisa Sparkle from his hand and the Choice Belt. And here comes the Box of Disasters. And yeah, I do really think that here you go for the Psychic Leap and you promote the Mew V. Let Tord take a 2 prize knockout, but you'll still be ahead by 1 prize card. Or actually, no, you put up the Genesect, because you have 3 Genesects right now. And if you can keep that Mew V on the bench, you'll still have Psychic Leap available to you in future turns. And could potentially bench either Meloetta or Oricorio, so that they have to go on to an odd prize trade. It's a bit of a difficult decision, honestly. But yeah, I would really love to see a Path to the Peak here combo with this Psychic Leap. Oh, Path to the Peak they are showing is in the prize cards. He may only be playing 1 of that along with 2 Lost City. So I guess Lost City would be the next best option to go for this turn. Would get rid of a Ralts, a Kirlia, and the Gardevoir. Of course, that being a Refinement Kirlia beneath it. So getting the biggest use out of the Lost City you can this time. Gonna use some Genesects, draw some cards. And yep, we are copying Psychic Leap. So no Stadium card replacement here, unfortunately. We are going to shuffle our Pokemon back into the deck. That will remove all of the damage counters from it, of course, because it's in the deck now, not in play. You can only have damage counters on the board. Although there was an old PTCGO glitch where you could have a Pokemon in hand with damage on it if you, like, Acerola did or something. It was pretty funny. PTCG Live has so many more great glitches than PTCGO ever did, though. So if you're ever looking to play the game as unintended, play Pokemon TCG Live. And now we are about 20, we're almost 30 minutes into the match now. And we've still only taken a couple of prize cards each. Or no, Tord hasn't taken any prize cards. Vance has taken 3. So here comes Tord going in with the Shining Arcana. Will draw 2 more cards, neither of which are energy, so they could just go straight to the hand. We do get another Gardevoir EX as well as a Super Rod. We could shuffle those Pokemon back into the deck because, of course, there was no Lost City as already stated. Gonna draw another 2 cards with Radiant Greninja, discarding that Psychic Energy. We do get a Reversal Energy, which is live. But do we have the Boss's Orders that we can use with it? Be able to take the knockout on that Mew VMAX by using the Gardevoir. Now the problem here is we also need our Lost Vacuum because we really want to get rid of Box of Disaster here. As I did mention in previous rounds, I have seen Tord lose to Box of Disaster decks before. And I'm pretty sure that's why he's playing Lost Vacuum now. At the World Championships, he was expecting Box of Disaster to be played by somebody. Of course, he did play against Darkrai V-Star, Box of Disaster, which is what I watched him lose to. I watched his game 2, and then he signed the slip. He was looking a little sad. Although I would be too, in all honesty. So we are using that Cresselia as a pivot yet again. That 40 damage on it does not matter. And it looks like we are going to go for an attack here with this Gardevoir. Just going to probably take the knockout on that active would be fine. Oh, here's the reversal energy, and the boss's orders will bring up the Mew VMAX. Do we have the Lost Vacuum that we need? I don't think we do. We do have a Collapse Stadium. We could get rid of our own, maybe the Cresselia or the Zacian, if we want to make sure our opponent cannot take a 2-prize knockout on this next turn. Yeah, I think you do that. I think you play the Collapse Stadium, get rid of your own Zacian V, so that Vance can't go boss knockout Zacian to win the game. Because you will actually knock yourself out by attacking with this Gardevoir here into the Box of Disaster. Yes, YouTube, I am still listening to that music. Yep, Tord allows his Pokemon to go down. Was not able to find that Lost Vacuum, unfortunately. It should still be in his deck because I did see it in his hand earlier in the game. But probably just too far towards the bottom of the deck. I think they're just like discussing how the Pokemon get promoted and the order of how prize cards get taken. It doesn't matter too much, but technically it is correct to do it in a certain order. It does get a little complicated when you have both Pokemon get knocked out simultaneously. I did, at a League Cup, I did overhear somebody have to actually do a Game 2 sudden death because they knocked each other out and both took the last 2 prize cards, I think, on both sides of the board. Like, they both won the game at the same time. And since neither of them had benched out, that meant they had equal win conditions. So Game 2 tied, and therefore they had to play a sudden death to determine the winner of Game 2, which is how the rules are currently written, which is really funny that you have to play a 4-game set in best of 3 sometimes now. Just because Box of Disasters is a card. Although I'm not sure if they were playing Box of Disasters. I'm just assuming they were. I just overheard it in the corner while I was playing my match. So we are going to Ultra Ball away. It looks like Path to the Peak and the Oricorio, so we are not pathing our opponent this game. That is a little bit concerning. I would love to see Path to the Peak here, but I guess Tord did show that he already had the Collapse Stadium in hand. I'm not sure why Tord didn't play it, though, to get rid of his own Zacian, because that would save him from being able to potentially lose this turn. So Vance, all he needs is a boss's orders, and he will be able to win the game. Well, also the energy to attack. And 1 damage modifier. Because you are hitting 190 with Techno Blast right now. Oh, if you have a double turbo. We're going to play Quad Power Tablet. Okay. That's a thing. Gonna draw until we have 6 cards in hand. We do find the double turbo. We even have a Lost Vacuum. Oh no, I thought that was Lost Vacuum. That's a boss's orders. We are going to take the knockout on that Zacian, and Tord does the most pitiful fist bump I've ever seen in my life. So we are going to go on to a game 2. Tord is down 1 game. Vance only needs to win 1 more game in order to win the World Championships of the Pokemon Trading Card Game. I believe this is probably the only type of tournament that Tord hasn't won before. He's won that online Players Cup. His team has won. He's won regionals. He's won internationals. I'm sure League Cups and Challenges. I can't believe a person of his caliber wouldn't have won those already. So he's just looking to win the World Championships in order to hold that title. And I don't think he's quite there yet. Well, I know he hasn't won a World Championships, so definitely not quite there yet. Come on, Tord. Shuffle faster. I think he did a mulligan or something. So 2 4 seals in the prizes for Vance. I want to say he's playing 4, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. And Tord does prize a Ralts. You never want to prize a Ralts, but it is commonplace to prize at least 1. Tord is going to start the game this time. He is going to be able to play his Battle VIP Pass turn 1. Get maybe 2 Ralts into play. He could always go for that Mew. Starting that Cresselia yet again. Consistently starting that one of. You'd much prefer starting that Mew, though. Especially in this matchup where the Cresselia doesn't have a ton of use. It'll just sit there as a bench spot. So yep, we're going for the 60 HP and 70 HP Ralts. We are going to shuffle up now that we've identified at least a couple of our prize cards. And then just a pass. Only starting with 2 Ralts on the bench is not what you want to see. You'd really like to have gotten that 3rd one down. So we do see Cram hitting a heads. That is huge turn 1. We will be able to find a Battle VIP Pass off of that. Especially if we don't have one already, but even if we do have one in hand now, looks like we at least have an S-Ball and an Ultra Ball. Can't really tell if there's more than that in there, but we could get that Battle VIP Pass, then use the Nest Ball and the Ultra Ball, get a almost full bench, and then just start drawing a whole bunch of cards. Vance could get a much better start to this game than he did in the last game. And we saw, even with his super optimal start, that I believe he intentionally did, he still won that game. Basically off the power of the 1 box of disasters he plays. Vance going through, identifying some prize cards, as you must do at this level of tournament. You want to make sure you know what those 6 prize cards are, so you do not just lose based off of not having that information. He has triple Power Tablet in hand here. Just like in the previous game, he just played quad Power Tablet to thin his hand. I'm fairly confident he beat Azul by going quad Power Tablet as well, to like one-shot a Mew VMAX. So Vance just getting those hands that that allows him to find Power Tablets when needed, or not, I guess, because he doesn't need them right now. So Tord's got to decide off this escape rope which one of his Ralts does he promote. He's going to choose the 70 HP one. Honestly, does not matter in the slightest which one is promoted here, because they're both basically the same card in this matchup. The memory skip doesn't really do much of anything if you're turning off, say, Cross Fusion Strike. They usually use Techno Blast and have to switch out of that their own effect they placed on themselves anyway. Oh, and we have a Forest Seal Stone. Yeah, so maybe this time we will be able to go for the Battle VIP Pass off of the Forest Seal Stone that we did not do previously. Now, did he cram for the Escape Rope to force a Ralts up? Because that seems like a very interesting decision. Is he trying to go for a Meloetta play this turn? He could actually be trying to set up Meloetta to attack and knock out one of the Ralts. That would be really powerful here. But of course, Tord does play that Mirage Step Kirlia. He could just go for that again and get all of his Kirlias into play that way. So I'm not sure if going balls to the wall to get that Meloetta going turn 1 is the way you want to play it necessarily. But uses the Forest Seal Stone to get the Fusion Strike energy, and now Ultra Balling away Power Tablet Boss's orders. So yeah, he's definitely looking to attack with Meloetta, or maybe just Psychic Leap works as well. You don't need to be Meloetta. So we are going to see both of those remaining Fusion Strike energies in deck. I think he has 2 Fusion Strike energies in hand, actually. I'm not sure why he Force Sealed for 1. Unless I completely misread his hand. I had to have misread his hand, right? Yeah, so we are going to see a Psychic Leap for a knockout here. Oh yeah, that's another Power Tablet, I think. Oh, is that a Cram and a Power Tablet? No, it's double Power Tablet. Okay. Drawing 3 with Genesect. So yeah, really crippling your start potentially just to get this one play going. Has yet another Power Tablet. Might as well save that for next turn and just go for the Psychic Leap. Keep your Pokemon in play. Take that knockout on the Ralts. And take your 1 prize card. We do have the Meloetta in the prize card, so yeah, it had to be a Psychic Leap. But it's really nice that that Psychic Leap does do 70 damage. And of course, with those Power Tablets you played, it does do actually 130 this time. So it would have even knocked out a Greninja. So, are we able to find our Mirage Step Kirlia this game? We do have a couple of Ultra Balls, but I don't see any Psychic Energy in hand. We're really going to have to find that in order to be able to put that play together. There is also a Luminion as well, so you could use that maybe to get a Professor's Research, but you have to be careful of how many cards you draw before using the Mirage Step, just because you could draw into your Kirlias. And if you draw into your Kirlias, you can't you can't use them. You can't put them down with Mirage Step. So looks like we are going to Luminion for the Research. We can also put that Forest Seal Stone down onto the Luminion as well before we play the Research. And Super Rod the Ralts and Gardevoir back into the deck. So honestly, this is still not that bad of a setup here. We're just going to be really hoping we don't draw any Kirlias off of this Research. Just an energy card is all we're looking for right now. Maybe some Gardevoirs for next turn, but definitely no Kirlias. So this is a really important shuffle from Tord. Alright, we're going to get rid of that Iono with the Research and draw 7 new cards. Do we draw any Kirlias? We draw a Ralts, no Kirlias, and 2 Psychic Energies. So we actually, if we have all of the Kirlias in deck, we actually can't bench this Ralts just yet. But that's fine, honestly. We did draw 1 Gardevoir as well to be able to combo, so we are going to get this Mirage Step off. So Vance, doing a pretty I mean, I'm sure he's beaten Gardevoir decks like that previously, but I think Tord might be one of the few people playing Mirage Step in the deck. I do know Japanese players tend to like it. I did play against a Japanese player at NAIC who was using the Mirage Step, and it did make the Rapid Strike deck a lot worse against Gardevoir in that way, because those Curlias having 70 HP is a lot different than those Ralts having... Yeah, the Curlias having 80 HP is a lot different than Ralts having 60 or 70 HP being in play that way. So here comes the Mirage Step. We're going to find hopefully 3 Refinement Curlias off of this deck search here. And yes, Tord has already identified that they're all in there, and we are going to go exactly for that. So Tord's board is actually really great here, having a lot better of a setup than he did last game, I suppose. Not having to evolve any of those Curlias from Ralts means that even if the Lost City does come into play, those Ralts don't go to the Lost Zone, so they can still be put into play later and rare candy into Gardevoirs. So even though you would be losing out on the Curlia having that go to Lost Zone, it's not as relevant, thankfully. So we would like to see, here is the Lost City and the Mew VMAX we'll need to find in order to take that knockout, unless we want a Psychic Leap yet again with a Power Tablet that we already have in hand, but I don't think the Power Tablet Psychic Leap is what you want to go for. That leaves your Mew with less HP, a lot easier for Tord to be able to just go Gardevoir Reversal Energy Knockout. You'd only need 1 energy off of a Gardevoir EX if you attach the Reversal Energy for turn. Especially if Vance is able to maybe choose to boss up one of the Refinement Curlias on the bench. Tord can have that 1 Psychic Energy still be in play, attach the Reversal Energy, evolve into the Shining Arcana, and take the knockout on the Mew V. So definitely needs to evolve this turn. Would be even better to maybe find the... Yeah, I don't think now is the time where you want to find the Box of Disasters, actually. Definitely save that for later. Maybe try to get those Reversal Energies out of Tord, or Iono him down to smaller hand sizes first before putting that down into play. Force Tord to go for a big knockout where that will actually hit very well. You'll get the full value off a Box of Disasters and some prize cards potentially as well. So it does knock out that Curlia, putting it in the Lost Zone does put that Ralts in the Lost Zone as well. So yeah, I think here, since there are no Ralts under the Refinement Curlias, it's correct to get rid of the Mirage Step 1, just to get rid of that Ralts as well. And of course, we already played Iono as well, so... So Tord is going to Refinement away 1 Psychic Energy to draw 2. Does find is that double rare candy. Not very useful when you don't have any Ralts in play. Gonna Fog Crystal for yet another Psychic Energy. And this is the way that this deck operates. It wants to get those Psychic Energies in hand to then get into the discard pile. Curly is really great for discarding cards that are dead like the Battle VIP Pass, but it's even better for getting rid of those energy cards. So we do find that Lost Vacuum. Hopefully we can hold that in hand for a while. Double evolve into Gardevoir, getting both the EX and the Shining Arcana into play. It looks like Tord is going to go for his own INO. That will put that Lost Vacuum to the bottom of the deck. He is definitely trying to save that for the turn where Vance puts down the Box of Disasters. Hoping to just maybe play around the Lost City instead. Although Lost City can be pretty detrimental, making those super odds not really have much of a use. So, refinement yet again, getting rid of yet another Psychic Energy, drawing yet another 2 cards, the way Tord loves to play this game. And they only have 21 minutes left, and they are in the middle of Game 2, so you could see Tord still being the master manipulator of the clock. Any normal player would be in Game 3 already. If he were able to even pull this game back. But also Gardevoir itself is just a naturally slow deck to play. It's just a lot of actions that happen every turn with not a lot of damage output until the end of the game. So being behind 1 game already does put Tord into this position, whether intentional or not, most likely. And we are going to see an Ultra Ball getting rid of yet another 2 Psychic Energies. Looks like Tord is going to be reaching for a one-shot this turn. We already have 2 Psychic Energies onto that Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Will we be able to reach for the knockout this turn with that Gardevoir? We could also potentially collapse Stadium ourselves, then re-find the Lost Vacuum to get rid of the collapsed Stadium, put the Zacian in play and take the one-shot. A little bit easier because it does have more HP. You can get more energies from your discard pile into play on it than the Gardevoir can get. But it looks like here comes the second Shining Arcana, and Tord is praying to it, basically, saying, please give me the energy I need. There's 1 energy, and then the other one, I guess, doesn't matter. So let's see, we can get 6 energies from the discard pile into play. That's times 3 is 180, 270, and then plus the base 60, so 320. So yes. Exactly what he needed was 3 energies on this Gardevoir before the Psychic Embrace happens, because he only has enough HP to get 6 energy from the discard onto it, because you cannot knock out your own Pokemon using the ability. Gardevoir has 140 HP. Each energy does 2 damage counters, so in order to put it at 120 damage on it, you would get 6 energy. 9 energy times 3 is 270, plus the base 60, 300, and 330 damage. So Vance is in a bit of a tough spot. He would have really liked to see that Box of Disasters last turn, apparently, but Tord did have the Lost Vacuum before he played the INO, so he would have been able to deal with it anyway. So it doesn't really... It's almost good that Vance missed it the last time, because now Tord no longer has the Lost Vacuum in hand. It's in deck again. More specifically on the bottom, if he hasn't shuffled his deck since. But I think he did with that Ultra Ball. I think the Ultra Ball was after the INO. So here is the Box of Disasters this turn. Both late, but at the right time simultaneously. If he knew what was in Tord's hand before that INO. Finals match is so long, it's putting me to sleep. Tord's play lulls me to sleep. Watching Tord play is like counting sheep. So we see the Ultra Ball getting rid of the Choice Belt and the Oricorio. Yeah, so Oricorio doesn't really matter too much in this matchup because that 330 that is the one-shot would be reduced to 310, so still a one-shot with the same amount of energy. Doesn't force any additional energy out of Tord to be able to take those knockouts, so that's why Vance is opting not to have that Oricorio in play ever. And we are going to see the double turbo coming down as the second energy attachment to this Mew V. Unfortunate that we were not able to find the other Fusion Strike energy to attach, but that's still fine. We will be reducing our damage output by 20 now. And I think he just found it off of that draw on that Genesect. Again, hard to tell because he's holding those cards so close to his chest here. No, it was the Lost Vacuum. Okay. I'm just not used to that Art of the Lost Vacuum because that's not the one I play. So Cramomatic flipping the heads, getting rid of the Lost Vacuum, will allow him to search his deck for any one card. What is he looking for? Probably the Mew VMAX so he can attack. But he doesn't need it. If he power... No. If he just uses Psychic Leap, he still takes the knockout doing 50 damage and he could shuffle it back into the deck. And put up the other Mew V that doesn't have any energy on it to protect that energy by putting it back into the deck. So I think if he has Path to the Peak, he's still looking for that, but it looks like he does have Path to the Peak in hand. So yeah, I think what you do here is you Psychic Leap the Mew back into the deck. Or no, because it has the Box of Disasters on it. Yeah, you can't put it back into the deck. So Psychic Leap, leaving it active. Although then, if Tord has a way out of the Path to the Peak, then he can just knock the active out with the Gardevoir EX. So yeah, I think you do need to find the evolution, actually. Yeah, I think you need the evolution plus the path. Although I guess he'll lose the Mew either way. Yeah, he could just Psychic Leap, shuffle it back into the deck, get to keep the Box of Disasters by putting it back into the deck. Tord can only take 2 prize cards. So yeah, I think it might have actually been correct to shuffle that into the deck and just promote the other Mew V. Because Tord could just attack with the Gardevoir EX this turn. Tord is going to promote the Cresselia because that's an easy pivot for him right here. We're going to do that classic search for the Manaphy with the level ball because we don't need it in this matchup, just to thin it out of the deck so we draw more than likely a more live card to us off of these, this one Shining Arcana that we have on the bench. Tord just having a heaping stack of energy there at the bottom of his discard pile is kind of hilarious. We are going to bench, it looks like, the Radiant Greninja here as well. We do have a Ralts, and we're going to go for a Research, getting rid of another Ralts and that Manaphy. Makes even more sense as to why he searched for the Manaphy with the level ball. You can thin that straight into the discard pile that way. We do have the... We do have a Collapsed Stadium. We can get rid of our own Luminion V. So that's not an easy 2 prize liability on the bench. And if we don't really have a good attack, we could always just use the Cresselia to move damage counters to our opponent's board. Soften up the active Mew V that has the Box of Disasters to make it so that Box of Disasters isn't really worthwhile anymore. It doesn't do any extra damage to Tord's board. But Vance could always just evolve, boss up the Gardevoir, and then Tord's in a little bit more trouble, but I suppose he still has the Zacian in hand, so it's still not the worst. Yeah, Tord could just take this turn off and still feel pretty fine. Again, it's the fact that this is essentially a single prize deck versus a 3 prize deck. You can take all the time in the world to get set up and then just take 2 knockouts and win the game. Whereas your opponent had to take potentially 5 or 6. So we do Lost Vacuum off that Box of Disasters. I'm sure Vance already knew that that was a thing in this deck, but just proving that anyway. And it looks like we are going to go ahead and attack with the Gardevoir EX this turn. Feeling pretty good about it. He's also going to use the ability to start stacking up the energy on his other Pokemon in play as well. That being the Gardevoir, so that it can take a nice 2 prize knockout by using a boss's orders on a future turn. So even if the Gardevoir EX does go down here after this attack, we still have the energy required in play. We also have the Illuminion and discard pile. We could Super Rod back into the deck, Ultra Ball it to find a boss's orders. We keep the Gardevoir on the bench so we can use Shining Arcana to draw 2 more cards as well. So multiple different ways that Tord has made it. This kind of feels like a checkmate here. I think that what Vance has to do is just hope that, well, I guess this is more check, because Tord needs a boss's orders in order to be able to win the game still. Vance could just take the knockout on either the active or the bench and just hope that Tord doesn't find boss. Tord also having the Radiant Greninja allows him one more way that he could potentially draw a couple of cards as well, and that deck is looking fairly thin. Yeah, so Vance, not looking like he's in a good spot this game, is going to attach a double turbo to the benched Mew V, play the Crystal Cave to get rid of the Collapsed Stadium. That is a good card to use against Lost Box because it allows you to heal your Genesect 30 damage. Only works on Metal and Dragon Pokemon though. And we are going to see an Io is going to shuffle Tord's hand to the bottom of the deck, and he will draw exactly 1 card equal to his cards in prizes remaining. So that is the only hope that Vance really has in order to win this game right now, is Iono, and hope that Tord just can't draw well off of it. Even with the Shining Arcana and the Radiant Greninja, it's a little bit too scary to say that maybe Tord has the stuff he needed in order to win just already in hand. So just Ionoing him into what was basically the rest of his deck feels a little bit stronger of a play, because I guess Tord would have found those cards either way. So at least make him work to try to re-find the cards that were in his previous hand. So I'd say, like, had Tord had a Super Rod in hand already, I think that if I were him, I would have used that already to put the Luminion back into the deck. So that if you did get Ionode, you would have even more ways to find that, because you could have just drawn into it off of the Iono. But Vance really struggling. Has double Battle VIP Pass in hand, is pretty bad. Already played a Stadium, so he can't play the Lost City. Has 4 Pokemon in play, so can't really draw any more cards here. And he is just going to go for the hit, not even knocking out the Gardevoir. And we do find Super Rod here. We are going to play the Artisan. I think you play the Super Rod, putting the Luminion back into the deck, and that's it. Or you could choose some energies to put back as well. Looks like he is going to choose an energy and the Kirlia, so the energy will allow him to potentially draw with the Radiant Greninja. The Kirlia will also be another way that he could draw. So those are the best 3 choices for Tord to find here. All that he needs is a boss's orders to win. So will he find that off of this Shining Arcana. And if he finds the energy or the Kirlia, will that lead him to what he needs? It draws into the Luminion immediately, finds the boss's orders to be able to win the game, and then Vance gives the limp fist bump that time. So Tord goes on to win game 2, and it is tied up. Whoever wins game 3 becomes the Masters Division Pokemon Trading Card Game World Champion 2023. No, they don't become the World Championship. Can you imagine trying to house that many people inside you? That'd be a little bit too hard. Oh wait, hang on. We see some prize cards here. Gardevoir EX and double Ralts for Tord. Oh no, that spells disaster for Tord. Double Ralts in the top 2 prize cards. That's why I like playing Heavy Ball in my Gardevoir decks. The Cramomatic does flip tails here, so hopefully Vance has something going for him besides that. Benches the Oricorio, which we already discussed how it's not super relevant here. We're going to have to Ultra Ball. You could have discarded the Fusion Strike energy and attached the Double Turbo for turn to the Genesect so that you could retreat it on a future turn, but holding that Fusion Strike energy for an actual attacker feels a little bit better here. So Vance is going to go through his deck, identify his prize cards yet again. And very important to note, 5 minutes left on the clock for all of game 3. There does have to be a winner, so it will go by prize cards at the end of turn 3 of time. And it's really hard to imagine that a 75-minute best of 3 goes to time. But it happens. Especially when you are playing against Tord Reklev, and it does go to a game 3, so he'll always find a way. So we're going to draw 3 cards here with the Genesect after attaching that Fusion Strike energy for the turn. We do have the Box of Disaster we can attach now, as well as the Meloetta we could bench. I'd say at the very least bench the Meloetta, and then you could, or you could play the Ultra Ball. Yeah, I think if I were Vance, I would have discarded the. It's such a hard decision though. I think I would have gone for the more card draw, and I think I would have discarded the Box of Disaster, put down the Meloetta, grabbed another Genesect, and then drawn 5 cards. But Vance is going for the slower paced game here, hoping to conserve those resources. Knows how important that Box of Disasters is, and we see, since there is so little time left on the clock, and Tord does need to get quite a few turns into the game in order to make sure he can even try to take prize cards. We see Turbo Tord now activating, so not playing at the pace he was playing at before, is now playing at lightning speed, because he knows that in order for him to have a chance to win this game, he has to activate Turbo Tord. Whereas before, he benefits more on having the clock run out, which is why he does not play at this speed in other games. So, looks like we are going to play the Box of Disaster down now. We have an additional card in hand that we can use for the Ultra Ball. But actually, no. We drew Path to the Peak for turn, so we are going to use the Genesect to draw 2 cards. And then we'll still have the Ultra Ball to get another Genesect after that. We do have a Cramomatic here, so there's a question on, do you use the Cramomatic and hope to flip heads? No, I think that you definitely discard that with the Ultra Ball at this point. And it looks like he discards a Mew VMAX, is a very interesting choice, opting to keep the Path to the Peak in hand. Just trying to shut down Tord from being able to use the Radiant Greninja as well as the Gardevoir EX. Of course, if Tord is able to attack with Gardevoir EX on this next turn, he is, or even just get Gardevoir EX in play on this next turn, he is going to be more in the driver's seat. So we draw 4 cards off of this second Genesect. We draw into an Elisa Sparkle, could allow us to attack this turn. But we do not have the Mew VMAX since we discarded that. So what do? Do you Elisa Sparkle? No, because you still need to be able to move the Genesect as well that you started with. So we are going to go for a Judge here. Put Tord to only 4 cards in hand and hope that that gets us where we need to be. Hopefully finding maybe a Mew VMAX. Even so, just a switch card and an energy is all that we need in order to potentially take a prize card. So Fusion Strike, energy, and maybe a switch card or an escape rope would be pretty good here. If we do go for the escape rope, Tord will promote the Radiant Greninja to protect his Ralts. But if Tord doesn't draw into an energy card here, then he could potentially just not be able to move the Radiant Greninja and maybe have to put up the Ralts, but there is a Fog Crystal, so no worries in that regard. Vance does find that Battle VIP pass. Can't really do much anything with that now, but we do have a switch card, no energy card. We could energy mix this turn to get the next energy into play. Yeah, here comes the escape rope we're going to do instead. So, going to force Tord to put one Pokemon up. And yeah, if he puts up the Radiant Greninja, he wants to be able to use that Fog Crystal to concealed cards. He doesn't want to use that to retreat, but looks like he is going to choose to, yeah, just swap between the 2 Genesects and pass. That's a really bad start for Vance here, giving Tord the opportunity to get to that rare candy that he needs. But he has some of the pieces in hand, but he just isn't quite there. Tord still has his 2 Pokemon tapped as if he used their abilities this turn, but that was last turn. He can straighten those out and use their abilities potentially. So what do you do here if you're Tord with that amount of cards in hand? And also, it is time. So is Tord turn 0? No. Is Tord turn 0? I think he must be 0. 1, 2, 3. So that would give each of them 2 remaining turns. It would give Vance the final turn. And I don't know if Tord is going to be able to win in time like this. I think Tord not going turbo in the earlier games is really coming back to bite him, especially since he did end up losing game 1 and had to play a long game 2 in order to try to find his way back into the match. Now he has no time for game 3, no time to build his board to try to stay ahead in prizes or to even win it. 75 minutes just not being enough. So if I'm going to see Tord lose, I want to see him lose to his own pace of play, in all honesty. I did actually, at the cup that I was at recently, one of my friends, their opponent was playing ridiculously slow, and I literally saw him hanging out of his seat like this the whole time, waiting for his opponent's turn to finish. So Tord is going to use that Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Kirlia here, as well as a Psychic Energy. That is the Mirage Step Kirlia, so we are going to be going Refinement route this game, potentially. I mean, what do you do here if you're Tord? How do you take the lead on prize cards over the course of this turn and your next? Like, Vance can easily just take a KO on this next turn. He has a switch card. He has the Mew VMAX. He could just play those out and then draw some cards with the Genesects. Looks like here comes the Refinement Curlia, as well as a Zacian down on the bench. We are an hour and 15 minutes into this game. So Tord's still trying to put something together. He might actually go for a Roar of the Sword this turn to try to stack this Zacian up with extra energies. In order to go for a big swing on the next turn, maybe one-shotting a Mew VMAX to take 3 prize cards is probably Tord's best option there, but can he get to that? Especially with that Box of Disasters in play from Vance. Tord's going to need to find a lot of energies to put in into the discard pile so that he can swing big with that Zacian and also find his lost vacuum. Tord also only having the 2 Ralts available to him in the entire deck is really hurting him this game as well. Because look at his entire board. He has 4 Pokemon in play that are not Gardevoir line cards. And I think the commentators are circling that Meloetta because they're like, oh, Vance could attack with that on a 2-prize Pokemon and then maintain prize lead that way. I'm not sure if that's the route you want to go for or if that's even an option for Vance. He's going to have to find an Elisa Sparkle to be able to do that at the very least. Yeah, he would have to Elisa Sparkle and Boss in the same turn in order to do that. I don't think he can even be able to piece that type of play together. So I don't think the Meloetta will be relevant in this game. So we are going to Rare Candy into the Gardevoir EX, and we could attach an energy to the Radiant Greninja, retreat into the Gardevoir EX, and just hit for 190, knocking out this Genesect. Wouldn't be too bad. You would take the 2-prize lead here. And by taking the first prize cards in the game, that does put you in a pretty decent spot. But it looks like maybe we're going to go for the Zacian instead. Zacian is a lot easier to get knocked out itself. Yeah, so I'm not sure how I feel about attacking with the Zacian here. Although I suppose if Tord does lose the Gardevoir EX, if that one gets knocked out, he's in a worse spot trying to find another Gardevoir EX. So I think, yeah, maybe sacrificing the Zacian here is a little bit better. Because then he could always just boss and attack with the Gardevoir the next turn. And then it'll be next person to take a prize. Even if Vance takes those two prize knockouts back to back, and Tord takes those 2 prize card knockout backs to back. If I can speak. So we see the Switch Cart just to thin that out of the deck, evolve into the Mew VMAX, and we can draw 2 cards. We could play the Elisa Sparkle first if we wanted to. I think that's fine. You could put it on the Oricorio and the Meloetta. And then you can copy Melodious Echo off of your Meloetta on the bench. Asking how many cards Tord still has in hand. We are, again, on an hour and 20 minutes into this one best of 3. So this should be turn 1 of time. There is a die up towards the top here. I'm not sure if that's signifying that this is turn 1 or not, or if that's just left over from the previous game. So we do see a Genesect, and here comes the Ionel. disrupting towards hand, putting him at 4 cards. He didn't have that much going for him before that, but maybe those prize cards he took were relevant. I forgot what his bottom 2 prize cards were. Tord not even bothering to look at those. Okay, now he is. Ooh, double battle VIP pass and a Kirlia. That's a completely dead hand he can do nothing with. And again, he really needs to find boss's orders here. He can always discard a battle VIP pass, but again, he's going to need a lot of energies in his discard pile to be able to one-shot a Mew VMAX, and that Box of Disasters is in play because Tord prized those 2 Ralts, wasn't able to go for Mirage Step this game. His whole game plan really fell apart. He has no easy way around this Box of Disasters right now. He does have the boss, actually, in hand, so he could just promote the Gardevoir EX and then boss up a Genesect, knock it out, maintain the prize lead. Vance could tie it up by knocking out the Gardevoir EX, and then Tord just needs another Gardevoir EX the next turn with another boss, or a Gardevoir EX with maybe a Zacian and a bunch of energies in the discard pile. So I think Tord really needs to just go attack with Gardevoir EX and boss. I have watched this particular game of this match before. I was mid-recording on the other rounds of this tournament, and then I heard this happen, so I stopped recording, watched Game 3, and I honestly don't even remember what happens. I know who the victor is, but I don't remember exactly what happens. But if you guys are still here, I really appreciate you, and make sure you don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe and all that. Subscribing is important so you can see more videos on the channel, and more videos like those on my channel from other places as well. And that like button really helps out, making sure these videos get shown to other people as well. We do see the Path to the Peak coming out, taking the knockout, tying it up at 2 prizes each. Now Tord needs an out to the Box of Disasters, an out to the Path to the Peak as well. And can he find that? I'm not sure if he can. Draws for turn. It is Iono, but he needs to play that boss's orders this turn. I think maybe you go Kirlia, discard a Battle VIP Pass, draw 2, then use the Mew to try to find the... Ooh, boy, I don't even know. So yeah, he doesn't need the... Yeah, the Lost Vacuum could just get him the out to the Path of the Peak. He needs the out to the Path of the Peak this turn. Otherwise, he just loses the game. So he does get an Ultra Ball. He could play that to thin his deck of 1 more card to make the refinement that much more live. Maybe get that all ever important Manaphy discard out of the way. But yeah, he has to remove this Path to the Peak now, so he needs to find a Stadium or the Lost Vacuum off of this refinement. Can't use Greninja either. Vance making sure to shuffle that deck as well. It is a lot better to shuffle your opponent's deck than cut it. It just takes more time. So we are going to use the Kirlia refinement, getting rid of Battle VIP Pass. What do we find? We find a Gardevoir. So we can use Shining Arcana to draw 2 more cards. We do have a Research now as well. So that's probably the best cards that Tord could have drawn. But the thing is if he uses that Research, he can't take a prize card this turn. So that could get him to the out to the Path to the Peak, but I think you have to go Shining Arcana and then just hope that you get the Stadium or Lost Vacuum. Definitely play the Ultra Ball first to make sure you thin that 1 more card, increase your probability of drawing into what you need immediately. And I'm very curious to see what is in the top of his deck. Okay, The top 2 cards were not cards that would have gotten him there, so again, very good that he is shuffling the deck here. So we're going to find the pretty useless, I guess I would say, Cresselia. I mean, he could research an attack with Cresselia, knocking out a benched Meloetta. But then Vance, then you hope that Vance doesn't get boss's orders. And you would be replacing their path so that they can use their own Genesect yet again. So you increase the odds of them being able to find their boss. So here it comes. Shining Arcana, drawing 2 cards. What do we get? Another Shining Arcana and another Battle VIP pass. Tord is not able to get there. Has no way to attack unless he uses that research and attack with the Cresselia instead. And just hope Vance doesn't have boss's orders or doesn't find it. So yeah, Tord playing to his outs here. His only possible option to stay even on this prize race is to take a prize card using Cresselia here. Now, here's the other thing, is can he accelerate enough energy into play? He has 1, 2, 3, 4 Psychic Pokemon in play. That can only be 80 damage. He would have had to have damage on one of these 2 water Pokemon. Off this research, he would have to find Collapse Stadium and Lost Vacuum and another Psychic Pokemon as well in order to be able to take that knockout with the Cresselia. Now, in this last turn, that Mew VMAX would have had to have used Techno Blast, right? So, if Vance finds a switching card or a boss... Yeah, a switching card, he wins now. And Vance should have plenty of those available to him. Also, the Cramomatics. He has not used his Forest Seal Stone either, and that's in play. So Vance has game already on board. And there's nothing Tord can do at this point. Tord can use his Forest Seal Stone now that he's found. If only Tord had that Forest Seal Stone before the research, he could have used that to find the replacement to the path, gotten rid of his own Luminion off the bench, and then gone for a much more meaningful attack, using the boss's orders, knocking out one of those 2 prizers on the bench. But unfortunately was just not able to get there. The cards not falling into line for Tord in this matchup. Now, the worst part about this is they put Championship Sunday, you know, all of the finals. So Tord made it all the way through day 2 and top 8 and top 4, and then had to wait like 24 hours or 20 hours, something like that, in order to play this game just to lose it. I would hate that. I would hate having to wait a whole day just to play one game and lose it. And I also, if I were him, I would have been playing this matchup. Like, I would have tried to find Vance's exact 60 and just played as many games as possible that morning as I could, because more than likely, I think this, let's see, we're 5 hours, so probably 3 hours in. He would have had 3 hours before his finals game started to play it out, unless they like held onto his deck. But I'm sure a friend of his would have been able to piece together his own deck list to have a second copy of it to try to play some games with. But yeah, I would have tried to grind this matchup out as much as possible before the finals. So Tord playing the Super Rod here to put the Luminion back into the deck. And again, just really playing to the hope that Vance doesn't have a way to knock out that Gardevoir EX on the bench in order to stay ahead in the prize race. Well, I guess if Vance just takes any prize card on this next turn, he wins, right? So yeah, I'm really not sure what Tord does anymore, because the V-Star power has not yet been used by Vance. Oh, he has the Lost Vacuum. He could get rid of the Forest Seal Stone. Yeah, so Tord plays the Lost Vacuum, gets rid of the Forest Seal Stone. Gets rid of his own state. No, you have to get rid of the Forest Seal Stone. Oh, but he's doing this so that he can put the Zacian down and attack with it this turn. Can he take the knockout on the Mew VMAX with the Zacian? I don't think so. Oh, no, he's going for that attack that I said before with the Cresselia. And yeah, now you're down to, does he have switch card boss's orders? He would have to have both, and he has a Forest Seal Stone in play, so... Toward putting his own boss's orders back into the deck that he had to discard with that research by using a PAL pad. Oh man, how long are we? An hour and a half into this finals match. My lord. Yeah, and then you just retreat into Cresselia, knock out the Meloetta. You tie up the game, and then you just hope that they don't have a switch card boss or evolution double turbo boss. And there's a switch cart in hand. We have a power tablet. We play it. Oh yeah, we would have needed the power tablet as well. So there is quite a few cards he needed, but he has a large hand. And he plays them all out, takes the knockout on the Zacian V, which was the only psychic Pokemon Tord was able to put into play. I really think Tord lost that game 3 specifically because he prized double Ralts. If he was able to bench a Ralts instead of the Zacian there, he would have been able to keep the match tied and then just hope to find the boss's orders again on the next turn, take that knockout on like a benched Genesect with the Gardevoir EX. And yeah, Vance Kelly becomes the 2023 Pokemon Trading Card Game World Champion, so props to him. I had not heard of his name before this match. But yeah, he ends up winning the entire World Championships. Tord ends up being second place, so that is still... he still has not found his way to... winning every single type of event just yet, and you could see the how upset Tord is. And I believe when they do the closing ceremonies as well, he's just holding the second place trophy, and he's just like... Just to be honest, I would too. So, as always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We will see you guys next time for more Pokemon TCG action.